2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
You can't handle the truth.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers.
Gentlemen, I don't give a damn.
You have my curiosity. Now you have my attention.
This is the Harrison Fisher Podcast.
All right, and we are live.
Fun.
So, thanks for coming on, good sir.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for asking me. I feel honored and blessed and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I was actually looking at your Facebook, and I saw your relatives commenting, saying, "Oh, it's so nice," and it's like, "Oh, that's cute."
Isn't it good? Yeah, it's funny because well, I feel it's just a conversation between two guys, and there's some microphones and some wires and stuff, but. You know, when you put it out there like that, everyone's like, look at Andrew doing his thing. He's making us all proud, and, you know, look at the shining star and all that. And I don't always feel that, but I'm pretty, I guess, modest about that kind of stuff. But it's just interesting how people perceive that kind of thing, right?
Well, I mean, it's to me, you're an interesting guy. And I think that anytime that we've ever actually sat down and had lunch or had a conversation or anything like that, it's always been, you know, I always feel like we go off into a tangent, but it's in the right, you know, direction.
Yeah.
So I figured who better to have on. And we haven't caught up since the last time. What was it? I'd say 2 or 3 years ago.
Probably, yeah.
I was driving to Ontario.
That's right.
And I think I pulled over to get some gas, and you had sent me a message and you said, "Hey, do you got 5 minutes so I can bend your ear?"
That's right.
And I was like, "I got about another 9 hours." And I think I called you right then and there, and we ended up chatting for like an hour or two.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. And actually, when I think about that conversation that you and I had,
Mm-hmm.
we ended up talking about the vending machine biz that you did. And something that blindsided me then was you said, yeah, I've been doing these vending machines. And I said, "Oh, how did you get into that?" And you said, "Well, you're actually a part of the reason."
Yeah.
And I said, "Why is that?" And you said, you need to just start. It doesn't matter what it is. Just do something.
That's right.
And that was the thing that you had picked.
That's right.
So that was pretty cool when you said that to me, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually forgot that happened. I remember having that last chat while you were driving, but I forgot that you were part of the reason why I kind of started into the vending machines as a side hustle. But if I remember correctly, I think that you and I had quite a few chats, you know, 5 years ago when I was really trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And, you know, I had this, you know, this itch to be, you know, entrepreneur and how do I get started and all this. And I remember through some of the chats, it was like, you know, I wanted to just make, you know, the next big thing, or I wanted to just take off and do something that was major. And you're like, slow it down a bit, you know, just find something. It doesn't have to be like new to the market. It doesn't have to be, you know, game changing. Just do something. And that's where I kind of pulled back my expectations and my plan. And I was like, all right, what do I like? What's something I can get into? And then from there, just kind of led into what I'm doing now as a side hustle.
And that's the thing, like, there's so much distraction, I feel, when it comes to trying to think of an idea. And it's like, you don't have to think of an idea that, you know, has never been thought of.
That's right.
You can, like, there's a big piece of pie out there. All you got to do is just claim your own stake.
That's right.
And I feel too, like, if you're always just waiting for the perfect conditions, you're never going to actually do it.
You're never going to do it.
Because the conditions will never be perfect.
They'll never meet your expectations.
Right.
Ever.
So you got to just get in, find something, and then go from there. Right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you did that.
I did. And like I had to kind of change the way I thought about getting into it. And what I started looking at it was, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it with the intention to fail.
Okay.
I'm going to intentionally fail.
Sure.
I'm going to, at the end of the day, when I'm done with it all, when I move on, or if I sell, whatever ends up happening at the end, that's fine. I'll see that as success. But as I get into it, I'm going to fail over and over again intentionally. Yeah. And that in its own will be my learning. And I've been doing the vending machines for a little over 3 years now.
How many you got?
I've got 5 now.
Okay.
And I started with 2. I've got 5 different ones now, and the company's changed direction a bit. But what I wanted to do was just fail as often as I could so I could do that learning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way I saw it was, I'm going to do this. I'm going to invest money and time. And my expectation was to learn, first and foremost. And then, if I make money at the end, or if I help people, I want to help people as well, but I want to learn. And the way I think about it is I could have taken the money I invested in this and went back to school. I could have furthered my business learning, get more of a degree, get an MBA, whatever. I could have went and learned something else with that money, but instead I decided to invest it differently. So anyway, it's been working out that way.
I find that that's like, I would call it like the opportunity cost fallacy.
Mm-hmm.
And you can start running circles in your own mind, like the woulda, coulda, shoulda, like, had I taken this money and put it in Bitcoin.
Right.
Like, you wouldn't be here sitting with me today.
That's right.
You'd probably be on a yacht.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
Right? But you can't do that to yourself, because as soon as you start doing that, it's like, you're just torturing yourself.
You really are.
Yeah.
You really are. What could happen? What should happen? But I don't know. I'm also a big believer in passion and like doing something that I'm going to like thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah.
And I've got different passions here and there, like everybody does. Am I passionate about vending machines? Not necessarily. Am I passionate about food? I really do like food.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Am I passionate about helping people? Definitely. I like that. And then I'm passionate about business. Right. So somehow that combination of things just kind of mended itself together. And here I am doing this as a side hustle.
Yeah. With the vending machines, I'm curious about this. Like every time I roll up to a vending machine, I'm just overly disappointed. Not yours.
Of course.
I think I saw one of yours out at McAllister.
No, that's actually not mine. There's another guy out there.
Okay.
But it's similar concept, yeah.
Yeah. But anytime that I roll up to them, like they're all just carb-loaded food, ton of sugar on them, and like I don't really know what the market demand is like.
Yeah.
Is it just that stuff, like, or is it the type of people that go to vending machines? Are they always going to be the ones that are seeking sugar?
Yeah.
Right?
So it's something super interesting. So kind of falling back on that whole learning thing. So originally when I started the company, I called it Holmes Healthy Vending because that was the market I was going after was, that, young professional out and about,
They want something that's convenient.
That's right.
But they want something also that's going to be quote unquote healthy.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was kind of me, right? Like I was running around doing my job and
that's me today.
Eats you today. Yeah, for sure. And I remember one time I went to a pharmacy or something. I don't remember what it was, but I went in to grab a snack and the best, like they didn't have anything. And it was a pharmacy, right? And they had like Snickers. And I'm like, what is this shit? Right? So anyway, I was like, there's a void here. I'm not sure how big the void is, but I'm going to try and fill it.
Yeah.
So I went in very blindly and, but I had done a lot of research too. And the research I had done was saying that there was a trend coming from the West that these healthy vending machines were kind of coming into play. Yeah. Which makes sense. If you look at a lot of trends, they tend to come from the West, and they end up coming to Atlantic Canada. So I was like, I'll look over there, see what's happening, implement it here. And the great thing that was happening, too, was that legislation was following it and making that schools had to have healthier options and all that. And we're starting to see that play out here. Yeah. So I was on that. That was 3 or 4 years ago that I started doing that. Anyway, so the company went from Holmes Healthy Vending to the first of this year, I rebranded and changed the name to Holmes Vending Solutions.
Take that healthy out.
Yeah, healthy's gone. Healthy's gone. It's still a key component, and the healthy is working. Like the healthy machines I have are still working. Mm-hmm. But what happened was I had an opportunity this year to go into a larger account, and they had more needs. They had more needs than just the healthy version, and I was kind of torn at that point. I'm at a crossroads. I'm like, do I stay in my lane, or do I kind of venture out and provide, or traditional offerings? I'm also selling coffee out of vending machines now, so different things. And when I boiled it back, like healthy's still important, but what I started realizing was while I was filling that healthy void, I was actually filling a major service void. The vending machine market was massively underserviced. Anyone I talked to,
when you say underserviced, what do you mean?
So they weren't getting filled properly.
Oh, gotcha.
Commissions weren't being paid. Jams were happening. Just poor communication, right?
Right.
all this stuff that I have a background in, right? Like
Yeah.
customer service is, I'm on my background in sales and marketing. Those sit on a foundation of customer service. So anyway, so it's that has propelled me into this new area of Holmes vending solutions, which is, through customer service, technology, because I have a ton of technology that drives my business.
Well, see, the thing is like if you're selling something just like everyone else and you're a Me Too, then really what is going to set you apart is going to be the service part.
Absolutely.
And, like I don't know what a good analogy for that would be, but I think about cabs immediately and I think about Uber. And I think that there's so much ignorance when people say, "Oh, keep them out of the city." It's like, well, hold on a second.
Time out.
Or people have these perceived understandings of like, that it's unsafe because it's not a sanctioned, licensed cab, right?
Right.
But, I don't know where I'm going with that, but like to try to bring it back and use it as an analogy for what you're talking about, service wise.
Right.
But to me, it's an adapt or die.
It really is.
And
really
if you're
is.
a Me Too,
Mm-hmm.
you need to really ask yourself, what is the value that I'm providing? Because you're not selling chips and pop and whatever else you put into the vending machine.
Right.
You're selling everything else.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's kind of back to that point about what's the customer demand, right? Like, what's that like? And what I started recognizing was I serve in the vending machine business, I serve two customers. I serve the customer and the consumer, right? And the customer is the place where the machine's at. Like, who do I have that relationship with?
The
right?
aquatic center.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The McAllister place, if I was in there, or wherever I have my machines at.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my customer. And then we have the consumer who's actually going and paying for the product, right? Customers, Eastern College is one of my clients.
Yep.
They love the, healthy. You mean the students there are going to be, they're potentially going to be healthier because of better options. It's a good selling point for them when they're like recruiting. They're like, oh yeah, check out this healthy vending machine. We're like, we're like on trend. We're doing this. And so like they're bought into it. In some of the places I'm at, they have like social committees and they're sitting around being like, how do we get our people to be healthier? This is one of the things they're thinking of. So they're really bought into it. Consumers, on the other hand, while there is still a demand, people are still buying the healthier stuff. There's still a part of us that when it comes to 2:00, we want a snack and we're just trying to get through the afternoon.
Cheez-Its.
That Snickers looks pretty nice.
Yeah.
Right. So there's that drives it too. So there's that awareness versus action.
Yeah. You know what? I would really love to see, and this is just my own personal opinion, what I would really love to see in a vending machine are Quest bars. So I work outside sales, right? Yeah. And a lot of the time, the only time that I have to stop for something to eat is a gas station.
Yeah.
There's nothing in a gas station. Even like a really nice one, unless it's got an Irving big stop connected to it that I can order, a salad or something like that.
Right.
90% of the food in there is garbage or more.
Yeah.
But what I do find is Quest bar has most amount of protein and it's got like next to no net grams of carbs. Right. There's like, I don't think there's any sugar in them. I think they're made with stevia. Mm-hmm. So I'll pay $6 for a Quest bar, which I have in the Pearson Airport. There's a little,
definitely.
But if I stop at a gas station, that's the only thing that I go looking for up and down the aisles. Yeah. So like to see those in a vending machine, and I've never seen them in a vending machine my entire life. Not that I'm like, perusing vending machines.
That's right.
But have you ever thought about putting something like those in?
I can't remember if I had Quest or not. I know I've definitely looked at them because they're, when it comes to protein bar, they're my favorite.
They're excellent. Yeah.
And one of the greatest challenges I'm having with getting options like that is simply where I'm located, right? Like Atlantic Canada doesn't have a ton of that I've found. Yeah. A lot of great suppliers for that thing. I can get it from Toronto or maybe even Halifax.
Yeah. Are you going to be able to get a wholesale?
Right. And then this is the challenge I have with my customer, like Eastern Colleges, for example. This isn't them, but they'd be like, "Oh, we want Quest bars." I'm like, well, "I can get you Quest bars, but you're going to be paying $7 in a vending machine." And so there's not that match there. And then they're like, "Oh," but at the same
time too, I've paid like $4 for a bottle of, like, just a regular bottle of water, Aquafina.
Definitely.
And it's, you know, you're paying for that convenience, right? So, like,
yes, you are.
I think that there's got to be a mix there of different brands that you can pick out that people are, like, so loyal to them and they understand they're paying a premium simply for the convenience of things.
Agreed.
And they'll spend the extra $4 or $3 or whatever it is, right?
Absolutely. Oh, it absolutely exists. It's a nice fine line, and I don't know. I enjoy trying to figure it out every day.
Knowing that I was likely going to ask you some questions about vending machines, I started looking at different stuff online.
Yeah.
And there was an IT department that has like cables and different things that people would regularly come to them for. And they had it hooked up to the Ethernet system in this big office building so that when someone wanted something, they typed in their ID, it would kick it out, and it would charge back to their department.
That's wild.
I thought that was pretty cool. And then there's another one. This is crazy. So this is actually something I didn't see online, but a buddy of mine, he's in the Navy.
Yeah.
You know Pierce?
I know Pierce, yeah.
So he was telling me that they've since taken them out, but back in the day, you used to be able to drink on your days off if you're on the boat.
Right. Yes, yeah.
And so they would have like a pop vending machine, and it would be loaded with beer.
I've heard this. Yeah, that's crazy. And I think it was probably cheap too, wasn't it?
They were a buck of beer.
Yeah, a buck of beer.
Yeah, and it was just enough to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
Like they'd pick them up in Quebec or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And they'd load them up. But yeah, you'd go in, pop a loony. Like guys that have 25 loonies on their days off.
Yeah.
And they just go down
to
the cafeteria, wherever the hell it was.
Yeah.
And they'd load up on beers.
Feeling good.
You imagine?
I could, yeah.
There's some other ones here. So beyond that, let's see here. There's a bunch of them. I mean, there's ones that had crickets, like over in China.
Yeah.
Like live crickets and different bugs and stuff. And people eat them, I guess, for protein.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ever heard of that. I don't know how well that would go in St. John. But, what else? Oh, yeah. The Pearson Airport.
Yeah.
You've been through.
I have.
And you see the Best Buy has their vending machine set up.
Yeah, I think you can... Where you can buy Beats? You can buy Beats and vending machines.
Yeah.
There. I think probably Best Buy. Yeah. Wild, right?
So, like, when I think about that, and I think about, you know, you're venturing outside of health and you're doing different things.
Yeah.
Is there anything novel that you could think of like that? Not to put you on the spot or anything.
I had a request from one of my customers for, it wasn't slushies, it was, I can't remember what it was now. Ice cream or something. Something like that. I can't remember what it was now, but super hard to come by. Obviously, the research on it. But like things like that would be pretty neat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a saucer. Like, actually, the big stop in Moncton, Salisbury, has like a pretty cool milkshake machine now. I think, for me, I think that's all about the experience. You kind of you get this little ice cream container out of a fridge.
Yeah.
You pop it in this machine, it mixes it up for you, and then you go and pay for it, which I thought was pretty cool. You know, you could probably wouldn't have to be that intense, but like the experience of like getting it out of the freezer, putting it in the machine, shaking it up. Anyway, something like that's pretty cool. And like to have that on site for a workplace. I mean,
there's a
neat.
French fry vending machine in Sussex at the arena.
Where's it at? Where, Sussex?
Yeah. It's got a deep fryer inside of the machine.
Oh my! How much do they pay for insurance? Where's it at? Where's it at?
In the arena in Sussex.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I wonder how the fries are.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't get any.
I don't believe that. I believe you got them.
No, and I swear to God, it looks like a pop machine. Like there's no open glass. You know, like there's some and it'll show you the ins and outs of them. Yeah. This thing's just a closed off. There's something like there's a little man in there and he's just like making French fries.
Yeah, little men do that.
Awesome. So beyond that though, you got into digital marketing with ICS.
Yeah.
And you moved from Pattison. I was actually talking to a buddy of mine from Vancouver about Jim Pattison.
Yep.
So tell me about that guy. Have you ever met him?
No, I haven't. But he is he's got to figure it out, this Jim guy. So, Jim Pattison. So, okay, first of all, Pattison Outdoors, where I worked before ICS. Pattison Outdoor was billboards, right?
Yeah.
Billboards, bus ads, that type of thing. He owns that company along with a bunch of other companies across Canada. The guy, I think he's 87. He's older than 85. I can't remember exactly how old he is. And he owns everything from car dealerships to supermarkets to magazines to just radio stations. He owns all this stuff, right? Yeah. He's been compared to, in some form, as Canadian Donald Trump, but
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett, even.
Right.
So some qualities I understand they share, some qualities they don't. Anyway, so this guy, he's super driven. He loves working, and he just kind of built it up. I believe he started like selling cars, right, when he was younger, and then bought a dealership and just kind of rolled it from there. I haven't met him, but I've heard lots about him.
He's the second richest person in Canada.
Yeah, and he is. He was at one point the richest. Actually, I was up looking yesterday, so his net worth is like $6.6 billion or something like that.
That's insane.
Right. So he still actively works. He's actively behind a desk or like in the air, going to different meetings and things. And so what I know about him is he used to have his quarterly or whatever meetings they were. Like they went to Halifax a few times when I was at Pattison, and they were talking about how punctual he was. So meetings start at 7 a.m. sharp. Everyone's there.
Oh shit!
He rolls in with his posse of accountants, lawyers, photographers, legal. Everyone's there. They have their meetings. It's super scheduled. It was scheduled, I believe, right down to the first break, where it was scheduled in the agenda that he would go out and chat with the sales team, take pictures, and then 15 minutes was up. Okay, back in the boardroom. At noon, he's gone on his jet. He's out of there. So, like, he's still very punctual, which you'd have to be. I mean, to grow from a car salesman to
multi-billionaire,
right?
Yeah.
So, one thing that I never met him, but one thing that I heard about him that I thought was really cool was, at the time, my boss's boss, the regional manager for this area, his name was Dominic, and had a lot of respect for that guy. He knew what he was doing, and he had a lot of interactions with Jim because of his level, right? And it was either him or someone else at the table that said, Jim, like what are you doing here? Like we're at a meeting, it's a Tuesday or whatever. He's like, kind of you're older, and what are you doing? You could be anywhere in the world. Like, why are you sitting here? You could be off having fun. And he looked at them and he said, like, I am having fun. Like, this is my vacation. Like, this is what I want to be doing.
He enjoys it.
Loves it.
Yeah. And I think that, like, anyone who's going to get to that level, you can't do it just simply for the sake of, well, I guess, like, he's self-made. Mm-hmm. But for people that do want to eventually get into the C-suite and be an executive, it's like, you can't do it simply for career jumping.
Right.
You have to be that type of individual that wants to, be at the helm and really enjoy it and love it.
You have to enjoy it, man.
And not for the sake of just wanting power over others. Because that's like, you're in it for the wrong reasons at that point.
You are. And I firmly believe that if you do it for that reason, it'll bite you. Like, and you can, I'm sure you can get to that level by not enjoying it. But when you get there, you won't be fulfilled. And like, I just figure it'd be a miserable time, really.
Yeah.
Like, anyway.
So, no, I think it's cool. I think that the Jim Pattison, older dude, multi-billionaire, he, what is he? He's big into philanthropy.
Yeah.
There's like some schools and hospitals that got his name on them.
Yeah, like in the last 2 years, I think he built, like he paid for a school. It wasn't in Vancouver, I don't think. Somewhere out west anyway. Yeah. Major hospital has his name on it. Yeah, he paid for the whole thing.
Yeah, he's much more well known out there. But.
Yeah. Oh yeah, everyone out there knows.
So you're working with Pattison. Yeah. You got a few years under your belt doing marketing, and you did a good job in St. John, from what I understand.
That's right. Well,
And from there, you moved into digital, and that's, in my opinion, a huge shift.
Yeah.
What have you found has been the most challenging thing of making that move?
Time out for a bathroom break.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And then, because that's a good lead into a good chat. 1 second.
Yeah, so tell me about that.
All right, so I was at Pattison for 2.5 years, and I loved it. So the funny thing about Pattison, when we working there, was that when I was in college, I took marketing course, and
Yeah.
we'd studied about Pattison Outdoor.
Oh, really?
In the advertising course, right? So like Pattison Outdoor is a billboard company. They operate in Canada. I'm like, oh, this is badass. Like, I'd love to do that. Because I'm a visual person, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, that'd be sweet. That'd be a fun thing to sell or to talk about every day. And, of course, when I graduated, I looked, there was one rep for the area. That position was filled, whatever. Anyway, a couple of years later, the position came up, and I was like, I'm going for this. Like, I'm gonna work here.
What did you do before Pattison?
I worked at Xerox.
Oh, that's right.
First job out of college was Xerox, which was awesome too.
Yeah.
Was there for 2 years, learned a ton. Had some sales training there that still impacts me today, right?
Yeah, 100%.
World class stuff.
Yeah.
But I kind of was done with that part of my life too, and it was just the timing was right. And so Pattison, I'm like, I'm going to go to Pattison. I want to go apply for this job, and was severely underqualified for it.
No.
My boss told me later that there were people that had applied for the position that, had media selling experience and this, that kind of thing. But, she actually in the interview said she was only giving me the chance to work their interview because I was just super persistent on it, which you have to be. Like,
you're in sales.
You're in sales. Like, I'm going to get this job the same way I'm going to go get a sale kind of thing. Like, so I was emailing her, I was emailing head office, I was doing follow-ups, the whole gig, right? So it's a sales I'm selling myself, right? Anyway, long story short, I get that job, and I built the market up here, and I had a lot of fun doing it. My transition to ICS was interesting. The timing was pretty interesting. At the time at Pattison, I kind of felt like I had done what I went to do.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but by no means had I won like major awards. I was runner up for a nice award. That was the closest thing, but I had exceeded goals and that type of thing. But what was missing for me was the learning component. I wasn't really learning much anymore.
You were being challenged.
Wasn't challenged. I had all of five products, 2 being billboards and buses, and the other 3 aren't really that big. And so I kind of figured out what I had to figure out. I knew my clients, and I could see it being repetitive. And that's why I'm not the type of person that wants to sell something that's going to be repetitive. I don't want to call you next year and be like, hey, you want to renew your subscription? Like, there's nothing fun about it. I think anyone can. I don't want to downplay it, but I feel like it's something that could be easily done. So I wasn't being challenged one way or another. ICS, I built up a nice relationship with them because we had some similar clients when I was at Pattison. And they're doing the digital stuff. I was doing the real world billboard stuff. And they said, hey, we have an opening. Do you want to talk about it? And like, sure, I guess. I'd always kind of visioned myself maybe working for a marketing firm at some point.
Yeah.
So I took it serious, and I kind of went down that road. And I was like, okay, I can see how this is definitely going to fill my urge to learn. Like, instead of like 5 products or whatever, Pattison, there's tons of stuff they'd be selling.
And digital marketing's always changing.
It's changed in the last 2 years I've been there.
Yeah.
And also, I get the chance to work directly for entrepreneurs. So I obviously love the idea of being an entrepreneur. Why not work with some entrepreneurs, get some of that guidance, and they're my friends too. So, which is also an interesting dynamic, but they're my friends too. So this should be all right. And, I love it. I love my job. And it's funny, people always say, is it better than Pattison? It is, because it fits me now, but I love what I was doing. I find people tend to leave jobs because they're not happy, right? And then they move on, like, it could be more fulfilled over here. I'm more fulfilled in one way, but I love Pattison just as much. Yeah. I just kind of like wipe my hands because I was done at that time. But anyway, yeah, love ICS.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
What are the big and crazy things that are, like I just said to you earlier when we were chatting offline, I said, I order so much shit from China. It's not even funny.
That's right.
And like, it's like they know me now.
Yeah.
And I feel like more and more ads are like that. Like, how about this? You're sitting down and you're chatting with your buddies and everyone's phones are on the table, as they are.
That's right.
And then I swear to God, like 30 minutes later, I'll see an ad for, like, we're talking about pineapples. I'll see an ad for pineapples.
You're going to see an ad for vending machines later on.
Yeah. Guarantee.
Yeah.
So, like, is that a thing, do you think? Like, I'm not saying, I'm not asking whether you guys do that, but do you think that exists in,
It's possible. I mean, the technology's more than there. For
It's
sure.
there.
I
Your microphone's sitting there all the time.
I have from the research I've done, I've come across no evidence that that's a thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It's tough because I've had similar experiences. We all have.
Yeah.
There's definitely strategies and definitely things happening where you visit certain sites or look at certain material online, and then you're hit with a message similar to that. Like, that's very common. Retargeting that happens all the time.
Well, what I found too
powerful.
is what is it? WhatsApp. Since WhatsApp was bought by Facebook, that if I am talking about anything on WhatsApp, with the guys, like we have like a group chat on there.
That's right.
I'll start seeing ads for and like that's an obvious one.
Yeah.
Because, they're probably not allowed to listen to you.
No.
But they own the platform that you're messaging on.
That's right.
So there's no reason why they can't.
That's right.
Like,
Yeah.
dig, mine information out of your conversations to advertise to you more effectively, right?
That's right.
So, I mean, like, is that not an invasion of my privacy? Especially, too, WhatsApp is supposed to be secured end to end.
I know.
That's bullshit.
It is.
Because it's obviously not secured end to end.
No, it's not. I think the security piece, I think that's interesting, and there's validity there. Like, whatever information you're sharing or whatever you're doing online, it should be locked down, and you should feel safe to be putting it out there. I also find it's interesting because I'm a marketer.
Yeah. There's some dissonance there.
There's some dissonance there. I'm aware of some stuff, right? Yeah. So like, I like providing stuff about me so that I am hit with ads. I want to be hit with. I want to be hit with the most relevant ads.
Your buying experience to be customized. The thing is, though, okay. So if we go back to the China example, I buy things on Wish and things on AliExpress. Like, they're showing up daily. That's how much I'm buying stuff.
Same, man. Yeah.
And but it's to a point now where, like, if I actually go back and take an account of how much money that I've literally spent and sent right over to China directly.
Yeah.
Like, at what point does it come where you're like, holy shit, this is getting out of control?
Then it raises the question: how are we in control to make that decision? Right? Like,
yeah, but like the more tailored the experience is to you, the more you're going to. Oh, I like that.
That's right.
And then you spend, right. So it's
right.
It's marketing is way different than it was even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, right?
Definitely different.
How are you guys? Like, are you tapping into that in any way? Like,
big time.
Yeah.
So to speak to that, I guess, like, the agency is a lot different. The marketing agency is a lot different than when I started, and it would have been a lot different from when the agency started. Yeah. Because marketing has changed, digital marketing has changed. What we're spending a lot of time on and educating our clients on and helping them with is this whole notion of inbound marketing, which inbound marketing has been around for a while now, but we're getting a lot of tools, online tools and stuff to help with that. Mm-hmm. And the premise of inbound marketing, well, first of all, actually, to kind of counteract, or the opposite of inbound marketing is outbound marketing, which would be like billboards, right? Like, you have a message.
The ads that I see on Wish.
Exactly. So you have a message, you put it out there through radio, newspaper, or knocking on someone's door. You outwardly put information, or you outwardly try and find that customer. Inbound is recognizing that, people are trying to find you and helping them through that purchase. So basically what's happened is, what inbound marketing is recognizing that, years ago, to buy something, you had to actually talk to someone, a salesperson.
Yep. And
you had to gain information about what you wanted to buy. So, for example, I want to buy a vehicle. So I walk into a Honda dealership and I say, here's what I'm looking for. What have you got? And the salesperson says, oh, here's the 5 cars. Here's the budgets. Here's the features. Yep. Yada, 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 yada.
He's in control. Or they're in control.
They're in control.
Yeah.
And that's in every scenario, especially in business-to-business transactions. You had to wait for, typically, a salesperson to reach out to you. Hey, Mr. Customer, I want to sell you some paper.
Yeah.
Here's my paper rates. I want you to buy from me. Here's our process orders. Let's go. without the internet, no one knows how much paper costs unless they're talking on the phone, emailing, or mailing, direct mail, whatever.
Yeah.
So there was that. But now the control has moved from the salesperson having all the information on pricing and features and benefits and really being able to control that conversation to now it's all online.
Yeah.
I can go on and find out, what something costs just like that. I can easily compare different options. It's all there. So what inbound marketing does is recognizes that, and it shifts the focus to being less about, here's my product, come by, to more about, here's how you buy from me. Here's how I can help you with that challenge you're facing. Information. So a lot of that's done through like blogging, for example, or in this scenario where, a podcast is a price of inbound marketing, right? Because I'm providing valuable information to someone. And in turn, they're going, oh, okay, this company seems like they got it figured out. They know they're subject matter expert. I want to talk to them more about how to solve my problem.
So, have you ever eaten foie gras?
I don't think so. What is
It's
it?
duck liver.
Mm-mm.
So, there's a farmer it's like incredibly inhumane.
Of course it is.
They take these ducks, they put a tube down their throat, and they force feed them grain until their livers get so big that, they can barely walk, and then they kill them, and then they harvest the liver, and they put it on a steak, and it's a delicacy.
Have you eaten this?
I had it once in Spain.
What? Are you okay? Who hurt you, man?
It was tasty, but then I found out after the fact that, it's incredibly inhumane. And I was like, holy shit, I'm never going to eat that ever again.
Right.
Until there's this farmer in northern Italy that came along, and he found the only way to humanely produce foie gras.
Okay.
And, it turns out that, northern Italy, like they get cold weather in that part of Italy. And the ducks would migrate south for the winter, and they'd come back in the spring. So he found out, or he kind of stumbled upon it, that the ducks would stick around if he left food out for them.
Right.
And, because they have to store fat because it's cold, they find the food, they stick around though, they actually develop larger livers than they would otherwise have had they just flown down south.
Okay.
So, if at the end of the winter he humanely kills a duck and he harvests the liver, it's actually the world's only humane foie gras.
Okay.
The trick was that he found, though, is if he just left the food out, they would leave and they would go down south. But if the ducks felt like they were coming upon the food and they found it themselves, and it just happened to be in the wild, they would stick around. So they don't stick around unless you leave the food out inconspicuously.
Right. It just happened to be.
So I feel like digital marketing, this is like my wild analogy with foie gras and ducks in northern Italy.
Okay.
With marketing is, people don't want to be told.
No.
They want to find the answers themselves, and they want to come up with their own opinion.
Yes.
And I feel like the new age of digital marketing and I'm not an expert, you are, but they don't want to come upon even advice that might be biased. They want to come upon third-party, user-driven advice that points out, hey, this is actually the best product. Definitely. Because if you look at social proof theory, like you don't buy a pair of Nikes because you've gone out and done the individual research to figure out that this versus Adidas versus New Balance versus, pick a shoe, that Nike just so happens to be the best one. No, you pick Nike because everyone wears Nike, right? And if we had to individually kind of break down the pros and cons of every single purchase that we ever made, we'd go nuts. We don't have time to do that. Yeah. So you just follow the herd, and if your parents or your friends have a GE refrigerator in their kitchen, you could probably trust, because GE is a good brand, that I can buy GE without having to do relatively that much research.
That's right.
Right? So I think that people more and more, with the advent of the internet, are looking for, solutions that are driven by other users that they can then stumble upon. When I think of a digital marketer, how can I use that to my advantage? Mm-hmm. I think, okay, well, who are those influential third parties? So that's when you get into your Instagram influencers.
Right.
And there's like, what's her name? She's in the city here. I see on her Instagram, she's like plugging Atlantic Lottery.
Yeah.
And what's her name? She's like a designer girl.
Oh,
Allie Beckwith.
Allie.
That's her name.
Yeah.
So like she has these random plugs, and I'm sure that she's getting paid for it. Right. But I feel like, things are moving more so in that direction.
Definitely. And
as a consumer from this side of the table, I have to ask, is this seemingly organic conversation that I'm seeing here in this thread that I stumbled upon through a few Google searches, is it legit? Or is it maybe, is there a larger hand at play over top of everything?
How much is tailored?
Yeah, like is it made up? Is it fabricated to look as though, there's food hiding in the grass for the ducks to come along, right?
Right. It's hard to say. I mean, yes, I mean it could be. There's reason. What degree is it being influenced? I guess, and it's interesting because like that's the basis of a lot of marketing, right? Is how much like the trust factor, you mentioned that,
yeah,
and then the emotional factor, like how emotional is this purchase for me, whether I recognize it or not. Like buying Nikes, there's a lot of emotion behind buying a top branded pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Not everyone's buying shoes just because you need to protect your feet. There's the look and feel and the emotion. What does it make me feel, right? So there's that. And then when it comes to like social influencers, it's funny because, speaking of self-made billionaires, is it Kylie Jenner? Kylie, right?
Yeah, I've never seen that show, but I'm familiar with.
My wife loves it. Right?
She watches it.
Yeah. So I can't say anything bad about them because she'll attack me when I get home. But no, she loves it. She loves them. That's cool. Like people, like they're obviously doing something right. But my wife loves Kylie. I think she's the one with the cosmetics, the one that just became billionaire. She's a billionaire.
That's insane.
And
literally doesn't have a job.
Yeah, exactly, right? She's just out here pushing cosmetics. But the thing is that my wife loves Kylie, and the platform of Instagram is great for Kylie's cosmetics brand.
Yeah.
And for my wife, because when Kylie posts, this new lip, I don't know what she sells. I don't know. I'm just making this up maybe. New lip gloss or whatever. My wife's like, hell yeah, let's get that lip gloss. But why? It's because she feels like Kylie is her friend. She's like, man, Kylie is my girl.
Well,
right?
And I watched that documentary on influencers, and I don't know if you saw that on Netflix.
Which one? What's it called again?
It might be called The Influencers. I don't know.
Yeah. I've seen one on Netflix. I can't remember what it was called. Might have been that one.
They got that Kirill guy on.
Kirill was on there. Yeah, the partier, man.
He's hilarious.
His life is just nuts.
They kicked him off Instagram, eh?
Did they?
On his 10-year anniversary, they gave him the boot.
Did they really?
Yep. Gonzo.
Is his actual account gone?
Yes, he had to start a new one, and it's Kirill Was Here is his new one.
Oh man.
But anyway, in looking at that, I think it was Paris Hilton.
Yeah, she was on there too.
She was talking about it. She's like, if I say that she's like, I know that I have this crazy power because if I say buy this wine, people are going to go out and go nuts and buy the wine. Right. And what is the guy's name with the hair? It's the fat Jew.
Jewish.
Yeah, fat Jewish.
Yeah.
He's made more money selling cans of rosé than he has doing anything else.
That's right.
But the reason that whole brand took off was because he had been, kind of influential on Instagram, right?
He was smart enough to move over to something else because this can't
use your power.
That's right, man.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
So, no, it's interesting, man. And, it's like, if you think about the internet, really, we've only been using the internet for 24, 25 years.
That's right.
Imagine what the internet's going to be like in the next 30 years, 40, 50 years.
It's crazy to think about, man.
Yeah.
I can't even. Really?
Yeah. And like AI, I was listening to something there about how many jobs it's going to take. Like they said that the median truck driver salary in the States is $50,000 a year. And that I can't remember the exact figure, but it was in the hundreds of millions as to what the savings would be if every single truck driver in the States were to be kind of replaced with AI.
Right.
But it's like, where does that leave a truck driver?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So they started talking about universal basic income.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going back and forth saying, like, you know, what are the pros and cons of it? And is it actually viable? And the thing that caught me was Trump came in with these huge tax cuts to corporations, and it was worth, I think, like $1 trillion total. And he said there's going to be a trickle down effect because these companies are saving so much money. They're just going to raise the wages of all of their workers, which there's no way that would ever happen.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So they're talking about the universal basic income being like a trickle up effect.
Okay.
And that if you can replace a worker with AI for a truck, let's say, and you just save $50,000 a year, well, there's actually, a convenience fee for being able to do that.
Of course.
And then that money gets pooled and goes back to working people or non-working people. Everyone gets the same amount of money. Have you heard of?
I haven't heard of this.
Universal basic income?
No.
So the idea there is like, if you're going to give a huge $1 trillion tax cut to major corporations in hopes that there'll be this trickle down effect,
right?
What actually, it's not going to happen.
Right.
But with the trickle up effect, if you just, whether you worked or not, made an extra $1,000 a month, if you're a working class person, then the likelihood that that money is actually going to find its way back into the economy is much higher than, let's say, if I gave someone who made $500,000 a year, if I give him an extra $1,000 a month, he's not going to spend an extra $1,000 a month.
No,
like he doesn't care,
right?
right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's an interesting premise. I don't know how I feel about it as in its entirety.
Yeah.
But you've never heard of that?
I haven't heard of it. No, but it's really, really interesting.
Yeah. I guess the initial thing is like, if let's say someone said at $70,000 a year,
yeah,
all of your expenses are taken care of. You can even go on a nice vacation doing that.
Right.
You can do all of these things. If someone just gave you that money every year, and let's say you're in a crappy job, and you're brilliant though, but because of your life circumstances, you have to work a deep fryer, right?
Right.
So someone instead says, you know what? We'll give you all of the money that you need to live. Do whatever you want. If that person is truly brilliant,
right,
then what is going to be the societal contribution that they give over their lifetime,
right,
that they would otherwise not have given had they been working a fryer at McDonald's?
I agree. Yeah,
right?
yeah. No.
So they say that the overall societal gains are insane, like way more than if you have people that are working a regular wage job.
Yeah.
So eventually, AI it's gonna come after everyone's job. Yeah. And it's a scary thought.
Yeah.
Like even the stuff that you and I do,
yeah,
like we have to be face to face with a lot of people.
That's right.
But what happens when those people that we're coming face to face with are also like, what happens when they're replaced?
That's right.
Like I get calls sometimes and, the telemarketer now,
yeah,
it sounds like I'm talking to a person. Have you had that yet?
Yeah.
Sounds like I'm talking to a person, and that, like, depending on what you say, it'll read different scripts.
That's right.
They're trying to mimic outbound, daytime telemarketers.
That's only going to get better, faster.
They're only going to get better.
That's going to happen very quickly.
Yeah.
No.
So, like, by 2030, if 80% of jobs that make less than $20 an hour are automated, which is what they're saying, then where does that leave all of these people? They can't just all be broke now.
Right.
They can't all be on the system on welfare now.
Right.
So, I mean, like, we got to think of a better system. What that system is, I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's terrifying.
And it's like, there's that, someone's going to manage the system, but that's the idea is you want to, I would think that you're going to cut human capital to save and use somewhere else. So you're not going to have as many people on staff. You're only have one person to manage a job of 12 to manage the actual system that does that.
Yep.
Right. So it's
burger flipping, man. I saw a robot.
Yeah.
Literally flipping burgers.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's automatic, right? And it's the same. I like what you said there about, a guy making 70, if he made 70,000, but his job was to flip burgers or whatever it was. And then he was brilliant, but he didn't have the means to actually act on that brilliance, right? Same thing kind of, I think, Zuckerberg trying to do with Facebook is like, I think he has like a mission, like everyone has access to the internet so that, if there's these countries in the world that don't have access to the internet, they can't be providing their thoughts and impact. So what is that going to actually do? Yeah.
What if your next Elon Musk is in a country over in Africa somewhere where literally there's no internet access? That kid could be a savant. And he would live and die without ever having the opportunity to contact the rest of the world.
Wild.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot in the context of fear and entrepreneurship. Also, like, so I'm a big fan of Walt Disney. Like, he'd be like,
yes,
I read a lot on him. I have massive books at my house that have been gifts to me that I haven't got all the way through. But like, I read them and I'm invested in him. Just all kind of stem from this trip to Disney World I took last year before. Anyway, I was just like,
you've been there the one time?
Disney World, yeah. I'm going back again in February.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully my daughter doesn't listen to this because it's going to be a Christmas gift. But yeah, she's 3, so she's not going to listen.
She won't listen.
No world she understand. Yeah. But anyway, I went to Disney World 20-something, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was just amazed that, this place and this whole brand that is Disney and the cartoons, the movies and all that was kind of driven by this guy. This one dude. Of course, he had help from his brother and a lot of different people. But if you read into his story, he was like a fearless guy, right? And he was just going against the grain in a lot of different contexts and things like that. And the way I think about it is like Walt Disney, like that dude changed the world,
100%.
Right? Like he changed entertainment as we know it, as far as cartoons and movies go. As far as amusement parks,
they just bought Fox, didn't they?
They just bought Fox. So you think about that and you're like, well, that's kind of cool. Like, this one guy, he did all this. But what if he didn't, right? Like, what if he didn't have the balls to...
Or the means. Forget the balls.
Even. Yeah. Or the means to do it, right?
What if he was in a socioeconomic situation, lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, where...
Exactly.
He couldn't go to school because he had to provide for his parents.
Yep.
And then, he gets stuck in some dead end job. He could be working, pushing papers.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And like, the thing was too, is that he failed a bunch of times, right? Like, it wasn't just all like, smooth and like
from the get-go.
I'm just Walt Disney now. I got Mickey Mouse.
And back before Disney was there, like that was all swampland in Orlando, all that area.
Yeah,
it was just like it's like when they wanted to build the casinos in Vegas in the middle of nowhere. It's like people probably looked at them and said, or Walt Disney, and probably said, "You want to put an amusement park here? Are you crazy?"
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of cool how he went to build in Orlando though. He had to fake. He had to create all these different buyers.
Yeah.
To go onto the land and buy it because as soon as someone recognized that it was Disney that wanted to buy it, the price would have been through the roof, right?
Oh.
Yeah. So I can't remember how many real estate agents and how many different names he had to go by. But he had to...
Is that just for the initial park, or was that every other subsequent after the fact?
Every other, I believe, yeah.
Wow.
I'm trying to find I have a list. I can't remember where it went on my phone. I'm scrolling through, but talking about, like overcoming like the going against the grain and like overcoming what everyone else thinks. When he went to build that park, what happened was he tasked his brother, who at the time his brother was like his partner, right? Roy, and they were the two guys that kind of went against everything. And Roy was more conservative. He's like, let's kind of be careful with this stuff. And Walt's like, no, I got this dream, man. We're doing this. So Walt's like, I'm going to build an amusement park. Because Walt had gone to all these different places in the world. He's like, man, amusement parks are interesting. I kind of feel the vibe. It connects to what I'm trying to do in the world, which is like connect people through joy and entertainment. Like, I want to build a park. So for years, he visited all these parks. And he's like taking notes in his mind. He goes, Roy says, yeah, we're doing this. Roy says that we're not, but you keep thinking that. So anyway, before the plans had begun, Roy went and sat with, I think it was 4 major amusement park owners in America.
I can't even imagine an amusement park before that. Like, didn't Six Flags and what are the other ones?
Six Flags comes to mind. Six
Flags is huge, but there's like Darien Lake.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them, but they came out like after Disney, so I can't even
exactly
like it was. I would imagine it would just be like county fairs and stuff.
That's exactly what it was. So if you think of like the exhibition that visits St. John, same idea, right? Like rickety old.
The zipper.
Fucking exactly. Terrifying. How old is that zipper? I don't know, right? Like, how safe is it? It's like it can't be. And so Roy goes to all these 4 guys who like run the industry in America, and he's like, "Yo, my brother wants to do this. What do you guys think?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "He is absolutely nuts. It's never gonna fly." And there was a list of 10 different things that was kind of pointed out in this book that I read of why it wouldn't fly. Some of the things were like, a lot of the main revenue sources that he's proposing, like Carnival, like the actual carnies, like he had no carny games.
Right.
Right? In Disneyland, there's no carny games.
Yeah, there
Huge
are.
revenue source. Yeah. Another one would be like some of the biggest footprints in the park, which would be like the castle. Mm-hmm. There's no revenue tied to that. Right? Another one would be Disney wanted to create these custom rides, right? Like very specific to, that area or whatever. Mm-hmm. And these guys are like, why don't you just go to our supplier, buy the same rides we're buying? They're cheap. No one cares. Just do that and you'll be happier. No. So Disney's whole thing was like, he wanted to provide that experience and whatnot. So by kind of going,
he wasn't selling rides.
He was not.
He was selling an experience.
Exactly.
That's what you buy, and that's why you go in there and you look at that castle. It may take up the biggest footprint and have zero revenue tied to it, but you're literally buying a ticket to go see it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And people bought into that.
Yeah.
Big time. Right. So, and it changed that industry. And like, the guys were like, stick to cartoons. Like, stick to what you know, right? Like, and people will listen to that voice. People will listen to, I don't know anything about this or that. I'm not going to venture into that, but he had the balls. He also had the means, right? And he went after it, and,
so that big question of, whether or not you have the means to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. And like,
that's the thing.
I think back to, like, what's his name? Microsoft, Bill Gates.
Yeah.
You look at a guy like Bill Gates, it's just like he had to essentially take a huge gamble to start that company.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that big of a gamble though if you actually look back at it, because like I think his parents would have had the means to send him to computer camp whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact story. But, had that kid grown up today in the south side of Chicago,
right,
there's no chance that you can be a brilliant mind. So I guess that is the big idea behind the societal gains when it comes to what would I call it?
I don't know.
Universal basic income.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, like, that's the idea. And whether or not it's actually going to work, who knows? And there's been all these little micro experiments. I think I just read a headline. I didn't actually read the article, but there was one that's happening in Silicon Valley.
Okay.
And the other ideas too is like Google. I think they give one day a week to their employees to work on anything that they want.
Is that right?
Yeah. And I mean, as long as like it's whatever the intellectual property is, it's owned by the company.
Okay.
But it's, you drive it. You're driving the car and it's whatever you think up, whatever you want to. So like to be a creative type and work at Google, you'd be in your prime, right?
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Like, and I think that that's cool, even if it was, hey, pick a project that you think could be, that not necessarily is just a revenue driver for this company, but that can change the world.
That's right.
In some meaningful way.
That's right.
You have all the resources behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Take 2 hours a week and carve that out of your schedule and just focus on that. And we'll have quarterly check-ins. Like that right there, like something that's going to really improve a company, I think, or like things like that, right?
Yeah.
So I see that as being a hybrid. But the extreme one is obviously just giving money to people straight up and saying, you don't have to work. But if you do decide to, you know, become an inventor or you want to engineer something really neat or whatever it is, then dive in, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's super interesting. And it's the thought of like the flip side of that too is like, yes, we can empower people that are brilliant or have good intentions and what are they going to do with this newfound means? But what happens when we give power to those that want to abuse it? And like, what does that situation look like?
Right. So this is like, you know, I guess you're treating everyone equally.
That's right.
Yeah. Whether they work or not.
That's right.
So even if there's someone who is an exec at a company making $300,000 a year, they're still getting an extra $1,000 a month. Right. That same check, right? And that's, I guess, how you make it equitable in the end.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I wanted to ask you about, I know that you're on a couple different boards or a board.
Yes, different boards, yeah.
So what are they? And
so, I'm on the board of directors for Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Yeah.
I'm on the advisory committee, which is also a board of directors for Pro Kids. And I am on, so those are two charitable organizations. And I'm also on the executive committee for the city and district 8-ball pool league. So I'll actually be the president of that next year.
Cool.
So volunteer opportunity or volunteer hours just out the backside.
How do you do it?
Man, like, here's the thing, like...
And you're drinking a tea.
Okay, well, normally... Okay, so here's the thing.
I walked in here with a Red Bull, and you got a tea.
I got tea, and I got water, and I got Halls in my pocket, because this man cold just kicking my ass this weekend.
Yeah.
Normally, that'd be a coffee. I've been on coffees for like a year. Before that, I didn't even drink coffees, but I got all this stuff going on. I got 2 kids, wife, side business, full-time job that I love and put a lot of hours into.
You volunteer.
And some volunteership, but... The funny thing is, here's the thing, man. People say this all the time. It's like, man, busiest guy. Like how, like busy. You're a busy guy. I'm like, man, I am busy. I definitely am. But I'm not missing out. Like I still watch TV. I still hang.
Yeah.
Spend tons of time with my kids and my wife. In fact, I'm always checking in with my wife. I'm like, you know, it's just like, you tell me when it's too much.
Yeah. I do the same thing.
You have to. Man.
I do the same thing because like yeah.
It's kind of like the devil, like the catch-22 with like loving what you do is I could go for hours because to me working like the vending machines is like a project to me.
Yeah.
It's a business, but it's like,
it's a project.
But I get just as fulfilled doing that as I do watching TV or playing a video game.
Mm-hmm.
I can sit down on my laptop and just figure out, because for me it's constant problem solving, which is what video games are too, right? Just anyway. So that's how I look at that. But, anyway, so the whole busy thing, right, is like, yeah, I'm busy, but like, everyone's busy. Like even if you're sitting on the couch, you're busy. Like we're all doing something.
Well, inaction is an action.
It's still an action. You're
by not doing something, you're actually doing something.
Exactly.
You're filling up your calendar somehow.
Yeah,
right.
Man. So like, I'm just choosing to do other things, I guess. And you know, why do I continue to volunteer? Well, first of all, I've seen enormous benefits from volunteering, like professionally. Mm-hmm. So I would probably, volunteering probably got me my job at ICS because, you know, I work with like the chamber and that got me connected to them a little bit better. And that's how the relationship kind of built there. I've gotten clients through, volunteering, but volunteering to me is like, you know, that age old, like, saying where it's like, we want to hire someone with 10 years experience, but I'm just fresh out of college. That whole thing is like, how do you want someone who's young but 10 years experience? How does that happen?
Yeah.
The way I started combating that was through volunteering, right?
Yeah.
Or doing pro bono work. I did some pro bono marketing stuff too. So just learning too. So I'll give you an example. I've never actually, in a workplace setting, I've never actually led a team. I've never been a manager.
Okay.
I will be eventually, I'm sure.
You don't lead a team now?
I don't lead a team now, no.
Okay.
I don't lead a team. I've never been paid to lead others. I've been paid to be a mentor to others at Xerox, but I wasn't their direct report.
Right.
But when a opportunity comes up where, let's say I'm against someone else for a position, like a job, and they say, well, you don't have any experience leading others. Yeah, but I've served on these 3 boards I've served as chair for one. I'm president of this. So like I indirectly.
That shows leadership skills.
Yeah. So I've never had the opportunity to lead someone in a paid position.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I've never gone out and actually done it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I continue to do that. That's one reason. The other reason is like, I feel like I want to make a difference. I love my community. I love St. John. I love, helping kids out. That's why I'm serving 2 kid-related boards to kind of drive that strategy. I feel like I have those skills, so that's where I want to use it, and I get extremely fulfilled by that. It can be tough, like I'm driving to a board meeting, which is typically after work.
Yep.
And I'm like, I could be driving home to see my family.
Spend time with the kids and the wife.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're bought into it. It's for the better good. I see it as part of my giving back to, the community and giving back to myself because I'm growing as a person, and it's just part of like who I become. And working, this is kind of a side thought, but like working a lot too is an interesting notion because, it's funny because everyone wants to be first of all, not a lot of people want to work on the weekends. They apply for somewhere like, I'm not going to work on the weekends. Are you crazy?
I work on the weekends.
I work on the weekends too. They're like, I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to work nights. And I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. But a lot of people would like to be famous or be a professional hockey player.
Yeah.
Professional hockey players.
What do you think you're doing then?
Work the weekends.
Yeah.
They work. If you actually, baseball players get like 10 days off in the summer. But no one wants to not work this, you know what I mean? But like, they're working. Yes, they're making tons of money, but that's beside the point. But they're also spending a lot of time away from their family. Tons of it.
Yeah.
I don't even know how I was landed on this, but, the day after Carey Price got married, the next day he had to go and do something for Team Canada for the Olympics. Like, no one bats an eye at that kind of stuff because they're playing a sport.
Yeah. So to which like degree of your profile is that acceptable?
If I were to leave the next day after my wedding and go like write an RFP, this guy's a workaholic.
Yeah.
I'm not doing, like, I got a pretty good balance. I'm not doing that. Yeah. Like, I know how to draw that line, but I love my job just as much as Carey Price does.
Yeah.
I'm getting fulfilled of it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Or like, I had to do some work. For the vending machines a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
And, it was on a Sunday, and my wife wanted to go to my mom's house. Like, we do that, often, go to my mom's house on Sundays for dinner or whatever. And I was like, I'm going to bring my laptop and do some stuff out there. And I was like, I don't really want to conflict with, like, family time, because, like, my mom, I don't want to see my mom, my stepdad, my sister was probably there. Let's do that. But then I was like, I got to get this done too. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, if I had to work, like, what do you call it? Shift work?
Shift work?
Shift work. If I had to work shift work,
yeah.
I'd have no option to be here. I'd have to be at work.
Exactly.
I have a flexible schedule. So, like, why don't I go open my laptop up, do what needs to be done, and still join the conversation? I'm still there. My daughter's still going to run over and tell me a joke. I'm not going to be, I'm still there. I'm just getting both done. So I'm blessed to have the opportunity to be able to work and be in that scenario, and I don't see it as a bad thing, and neither do they. I'm not going to work every time I'm home. I'm going to draw a line and leave and go to a coffee shop if I have to. I did that this weekend, actually. We were at a family function in Moncton. I was like, I'm going to take 2 hours, go to Starbucks and work. However, if I have to sit there and do my stuff too, it's understood. But at the same time, after I was done my 2 hours of work, I took my daughter hop, skip, and jump.
Yeah. So does your wife recognize that and respect it?
Yeah, we talk about it. We talk about it pretty frequently.
Really?
You know what I mean? Like, and I say, like, if there becomes a time where this is too much or whatever, because I have that flexibility, then we cut it out, man. Like, we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Like, actually, she called me last week on Tuesday night. Tuesday night's my nights where I go play pool.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thing, right? And she called me, she said, I'm not feeling the greatest. Like, what should I do? Should I call my mom? Should I call your mom? Whatever. I said, oh, no, I'm just going to come home. I'm not going to go to the pool. Well, no, you have to go to the pool. No, I don't.
No, you don't have to.
I don't have to go to the pool. And she's like, it's funny, I didn't even think of that as an option. Because she's just used to, like, saying go ahead. But I want to be very aware of how I'm deciding to do things. And I was like, tonight's the night my wife needs me. She would have, you know what, man? She would have toughed it out. She would have, as tired as she was, she would have put the bath off. She would have took care of the kids. She would have been great. It would have been fine.
Yeah.
But I recognized that she was calling me because she needed help. So I was like, this comes first now. And it's doing certain things like that.
I think to be able to recognize that, that's how you really set apart from someone who is considered a workaholic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
To be able to kind of recognize it and make that judgment call.
Yeah. And I would do the same and that was a leisure activity, playing pool. But I would do the same thing with work.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to come. I'm going to get to it.
So you're reminding me of something that I saw not too long ago. Actually, it's quite some time ago, but I'm trying to remember it. There's a guy, he's a social psychiatrist or social scientist of some kind. His name is Philip Zimbardo.
Okay.
And he was the one who did that movie, The Stanford Experiments.
Okay, yeah,
where,
yeah.
like, you know, there's 10 students that are prison guards. There's
I saw that.
10 students that are prisoners.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you actually look into the guy that came up with that original research,
yes,
he's an interesting dude.
What's his name? Do you remember the name?
Philip Zimbardo.
Oh, same dude. Sorry.
Yeah. No. So that's
that's
the guy. So he copied a study from one of his predecessors, and he wanted to see if he could replicate it.
Yeah.
And so it was the marshmallow test.
Okay.
And I promise I'll bring this full circle to workaholics because it'll make a lot of sense. But they line up, like, I think it's like 4 and 5 year olds, and they get them into a room one at a time, and they do some trivial game where the kid always wins no matter how the kid answers.
Yes.
And that's not actually really what the test is. The test is in the prize that they get.
Yeah.
So they say, you know, I'll give you a marshmallow, and you can either eat the marshmallow right now. Mm-hmm. This is your prize. You've earned it. But I'm going to leave this marshmallow right here in front of you, and I'm going to leave the room, and I'm going to come back in 10 minutes. Right. And if the marshmallow's still there, if you are able to resist temptation, I'll give you a second marshmallow, and you'll have double marshmallows.
2.
You get to have 2.
Woo!
So, what they did is over a period of like 13 years, they tracked these 14 years, they tracked these 4 and 5 year olds right up until they were 18.
Okay.
And they tracked them on things like their SAT scores, behavioral problems in schools, whether or not, you know, they managed to get a criminal record by the time they were 18, whether they dropped out, all these things, right?
Right.
And they found that the kids that were less apt to give in to temptation, mm-hmm. and that could, you know, abstain weight and get that second marshmallow, those were the kids that, you know, didn't fall victim, but those are the kids that didn't get pregnant.
Right.
Those are the kids that, you know, had really good SAT scores, et cetera, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, this Philip Zimbardo guy, he replicates this research that was done well before him back in the 70s or something like that. And he actually has like this grid, if you can imagine, like 6 boxes. Mm-hmm. And so in the bottom left box, you have past oriented. Mm-hmm. But it's like past negative. Mm-hmm. And above it, past positive. And then you move over to the right, you have present positive, present negative, right? Imagine like a line, right? And then the next one over, you have future positive, future negative, right? And they said that like people that are very focused on the past in a negative sense.
Yes.
Those are the ones that are always like, woe is me. I'll never overcome. You know, those are those types of people, right?
Yes.
And then you get your past positive. Those are the people that, you know, they keep scrapbooks, they keep family albums, they remember the good old times, right?
Right.
And then you get people who are present positive. Those are the people that are life of the party, always got a smile on their face, you know, the whole room lights up when they walk in, right? And then you got people who are present negative, who are like hedonistic. Those are your heroin addicts.
Right.
People that, you know, can't not drink and they just resort to gratification all the time. Right?
Yeah.
But then, so this is where I circle back to, you know, workaholics.
Mm-hmm.
You got your future positive, and those would be people that understand that, you know, investing is important.
Right.
Because I'm going to retire someday. It's, you know, people that are living in the present or even in the past maybe don't really understand as much of the importance of investing to save for your future, because maybe, you know, they're just used to a lifestyle that is always instant gratification, or it doesn't really matter, right? So they don't really plan for the future. Those are people that typically, if given the opportunity, don't go to school.
Right.
Right.
Agree. Yeah.
Like, so, that's, you know, so if you look at the future oriented people, they get it. They go to school.
That's right.
Those are the positive ones.
Yes.
And I feel like where you're coming from right now, what you're talking about, you're a very future positive type of person.
That's right.
Where you can slip into that negative side is, on the side of being a workaholic.
Definitely.
That is a future. You're very future oriented,
Mm-hmm.
but it's future negative to the point that it's a detriment to your present self.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a balance there. And I think that, you know, you don't really want to ever land in just one of those three categories.
No, I can see that.
But you definitely want to stay above the line, and you want to be a mix of the three.
Absolutely.
Right. So, I guess, I don't know, you reminded me of that when you were talking about, like, how do you really determine whether or not it's appropriate to be working as much as I am? And, I think to circle back and always be checking in with, especially your significant other.
Definitely.
But yourself too.
Absolutely.
Is great.
Yeah. And that's a really cool way to put it, actually. And you're right. Like, I'm future thinking, you know, and I'm like, okay, this is going to happen. I'm going to do good things, and I'm going to keep moving forward. But, I'm checking myself, and like my kids help with that. So like, I'm reading my daughter a book, like I'm doing my best to like be
in the moment.
Got to be there, right?
Yeah.
Like they do that. So, and my son, like he's only 3 months old, the same idea, like the smallest things he's doing. And it's easy as someone that like, I've got all these things that I'm doing all the time, right? Whether it's board stuff, work stuff, vending machine stuff, whatever. My mind can always be going. And I'm also like, again, back to that problem solving. I enjoy it. So my mind could be fulfilled with that all day.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just sitting on the couch. My mind could be occupied with that. But it's literally taking the action of just pushing that aside. Any worry, any doubt, any happiness, or, you know, anything, any other activity or emotion that's in my mind, putting that on the bench and just being there, right? And it helps.
Yeah. Well, you see you see parents, like, I see them out in public, and I'm not one to judge, I'm not a parent, but you see parents and they're like, you know, they're just sitting there on their phones.
I know.
Or
I'm guilty for that too. Yeah, we all are.
Yeah. But, or, you know, the other one is you plant your kid there with, a digital babysitter, which is an iPad, right?
Yeah.
And I can't like make that judgment call. Maybe someday I'll be there and I'll be like, this iPad's a godsend.
No, agreed. I
don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But
I had that challenge in my mind too. Well, not really a challenge. We're kind of set on that. Like, we don't give our daughter the iPad, and I'm not like thinking ill of anyone that does do it with their kid. Everyone raises their kids differently. We've just decided not to.
So you've just cut it out altogether?
No, she does sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's not happening often. But my daughter loves books, and we see that as being valuable in my life, and I see that as valuable.
100%.
Books and playing with dolls and interacting with people. I've made the argument before, and it's not the argument that I'm not sure that I believe this, it's just the other side of the coin that I'm trying to play is, but what if, interacting with the iPad now more frequently and her younger, more absorbed mind state will actually benefit her in a more digital age down the road.
I was just gonna say that.
Hard to say.
Right.
And the thing that we've said was, yeah, but we didn't, we didn't grow up on that. And yeah, right. But we try to preserve what happened. Like, it was better in the good old days, right? We always say that, but not necessarily always holds true, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't always hold true.
Yeah, I think about iPads specifically, and do you hand technology over to your kids? Because if you don't, then potentially you're at risk of ostracizing your kid or singling them out as the one kid who doesn't know how to convert a PDF to a Word document.
Exactly. Right.
Like, how many old people that I work with have asked me to do, wow, I didn't know you could do that.
I know.
It's like, oh yeah, don't worry, I got this.
Yeah, that's right. Look at this guy, right? I know.
But do you potentially put your kid at risk by cutting technology out of their lives? Do you put them at risk of being that person, that individual who just what is it? There's one now, there's an after school program called Coding for Kids.
Okay.
And I think it's a chain right now that's only in Ontario. A buddy of mine who lives in London is looking at getting London, Ontario.
Yes.
Is looking at getting rights to run the franchise.
Okay.
So it's essentially just teaching coding to kids. But if you think about it, that's going to be in a digital age, that's going to be as relevant as a lot of jobs that, it's completely different from when we were younger, right?
It's very real. Very real. I guess the other thing too is we're not necessarily anti-iPad or anti-technology. I'm pro it. Get on there and watch your Play-Doh videos. Well, yeah, I don't care. But what we are pro is human interaction, and I don't that's not going to go away. There's going to be a lot of value, even as AI comes in more full effect, and as a higher demand and need for digital skills. I don't think that personal interaction, the way you work with people and the way you interact and speak and help and all everything that has come down to a one-to-one human interaction, I think those skills will always be relevant and needed.
Yeah. So sales.
Exactly.
The quick transactional sales, your AI taking over outbound telemarketing.
Right.
Which, when I get those calls, I'm kind of it kind of makes me feel weird and gross.
Yes. Yeah.
But, they're doing it. But, sales where, I got a buddy there and he just closed, $600,000 in business, but he had to fly there to do it.
That's right.
And you do. You have to be there in person because no one's going to sign a check through Skype.
It's not happening.
It's not going to happen.
No.
No one's going to sign a $600,000 deal to someone who's, AI.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that there's going to be those jobs that stick. But I'm really fearful as to what the future is going to look like for my kids someday if I have them. What's that going to be like for them, right?
Mm-hmm. I guess the other thing is too, I want teach my daughter to adapt. It's going to change. It's going to be, actually kind of on that, but not really on that, I guess, is my wife and I have, my wife will sometimes, she'll be just so afraid of the day, my daughter might get bullied or my son might get bullied.
Yeah.
Okay? Very, very terrifying as a parent to think of someone being mean to your child. And that's a commonality between most parents, I would say. It's man, my baby, don't hurt my baby. You want to protect them. And then there's those days that are going to come when they enter school, and then we can't. And it's
inevitable.
It's inevitable. And that's the point I made, was that it's going to happen. I think, I don't know what social media has really done for or against bullying. There's been raised awareness against bullying, but also it enhances a tool for bullying too. So I don't know.
Yeah,
bullying's not going
it doesn't just happen at school anymore. It's,
right.
Yeah, when the
bullying
kid
is
goes
not
home.
going away as far as I can tell. If it does, it's great. So we have to live under the assumption that my daughter's going to get bullied someday, because most of us, if not all of us, have in one way or another. Our feelings have been hurt by someone, right? And I said, I don't want to help her prevent being bullied. I want her to understand how to deal with being bullied.
Yeah, it's better not to shelter.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, the lesson there, the idea there is adaptation, like adapt to what's happening in the world, and I want her to adapt to that scenario.
Yeah.
How do you react, and how does it impact you? It doesn't, or it does.
Yeah.
And then what's that look like?
So, like, I think about, and this is just, I've had a notion of it. I've not really put any serious planning into it because, again, I don't have kids. But I think that if I did have a kid, I'd want to get them into some type of martial art.
Yeah.
Because I think that, the self-discipline that it teaches to your kid, and, the tolerance of other people, and to understand how much power you have in your own body to be able to, end someone.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And to be able to hold that back and have that what is it? What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Self-control.
Yeah.
Self-control. To have the self-control to be able to hold that power back, I think is, a valuable, lesson that can be learned for a kid at a young age. And when they're faced with something like bullying,
right,
if they understand, like, hey, I could actually beat the crap out of this kid,
right,
but I'm choosing not to,
right,
that instantly makes that kid the better person.
Absolutely. And
that's like, I have friends who have their kids in karate and jiu-jitsu, and one of the tenets that they teach is that self-control component, and to understand, like, hey, you have the ability to really mess someone up,
right,
but what's more important is to be able to hold it back, right?
Right.
So I don't know if that's something that you've ever considered.
I haven't actually thought of that, but that's good.
Yeah, because like instantly, if you say, "Oh, I'm getting my kid into karate," you're thinking, "Oh, you're just setting your kid up to go and get in fights on the schoolyard." But it's counterintuitive because it's the exact opposite.
Right.
What they're teaching in those classes is self-control and how to, handle situations like that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, a piece of being bullied is having that feeling of not having any control.
That's right.
So by teaching a kid that, hey, you actually have a tremendous amount of control over the situation, and you're being the bigger person right off the hop by not exercising that lethal force, unless you have to.
That's right.
That it can be a really positive learning experience. Now, I'd probably get my kids into...
Probably should.
My hypothetical kids that I don't have yet.
Yeah.
But
control. That whole control piece, right? Is like in this whatever situation, do you have the tools to make this out to be in your favor? Is what it is, right? And if you don't, that's where that helplessness comes in, the anxiety, the fear, and all that crazy stuff, right?
Helplessness, anxiety, and fear. Those are like,
right?
Yeah, spot on.
It's funny because, talking about control, right? Like, so like being part of my back is kind of funny how it circles back to like the vending machines, but like, part of the doing this again, I mentioned I wanted to learn, right? And the biggest thing is I wanted to learn how I was going to react. I've read books. I went to school. I have entrepreneur friends. I've done this like from a theoretical standpoint, I understood somewhat what an entrepreneur would be like, but I never actually felt it.
Yeah.
What does it mean to carry that stress and that worry and that loss of control, right? So I wanted to learn if I could deal with that. That was the whole thing. And that's been the biggest learning. And it's recently I've started handling, my business has grown substantially, over the last 6 months. And that means I have more, I'm losing control, but I'll have more control over certain things.
Yeah.
What I'm getting to is that, I have a lot of eggs in one basket, one account right now. Great account. It's a lot of opportunity for me. But if I lose that account, a lot of my business goes with it. And with that, I be left with debt. I will potentially, could face depression. My wife could be, how could you do this? How's society? That's, those type of things that entrepreneurs think about, right?
Yeah.
If this fails, what's going to happen? Which that failure is a lot of the reasons why people don't go into doing anything entrepreneurial, right?
Yeah.
So what I've been realizing and learning lately, I think I actually got this from Steve Harvey. You know Steve Harvey?
Yeah.
Right? Of Family Feud.
Family Feud.
Most recently, but original Kings of Comedy. And anyway, comedian, right? And Steve's a smart guy. He's well spoken. One of his clips was he talks about control. And he puts God in a lot of his messaging, but he talks about how I think one of his shows were canceled recently. Like one of the shows, like a talk show or something.
Okay.
And he was talking about how, like, that's cool. Like, the show's canceled. Like, that, it sucks or whatever. Like, that's how I feel. But, like, that show didn't control me. You know what I mean? Like, that's a small part of my life. And that's like, he says God, but that's just the world telling him that he needs to focus his life somewhere else right now.
Yeah.
And it's the time for that's over with. And the way I've started thinking about control in my own life is that I felt like that account I have, that big one that like is carrying most of my weight right now, that account has a lot of control over the success or failure of the business.
Yep.
And how I feel as a success or failure as it relates to this
in your own personal
If this
life.
goes down, I'm gonna be like, man, what, you suck, right?
Yeah.
However, I get to reshape that thinking, because if I continue to think that this account has that much control over my life and that it could someday cause me like depression and like really hurt me, that's paralyzing, and that's anxiety right there. Like, just that thought alone can make me not want to move, right? However, if I think about it and be like, you know what? The worst that could happen, let's say, okay, so they say, we don't want your services anymore. It's all done. I can't scramble to find another replacement account. I'm left with whatever, 20, 30 grand debt, whatever I happen to have.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give him that account, that control. I'm not going to let them have control to put me into depression over that. What I'm thinking of is now, even if that happens, even if that's the worst case scenario,
Yeah.
I'm not going to let that dictate how I feel, because maybe that's the best thing for me. Maybe I need that at the time, that to fail. I need that business to go down, because that's the world's way or God's way or whatever you believe in. That's the way of saying, you know what? You need to spend more time with your kids. You know? True. You gotta go actually find 5 more things to volunteer your time for.
So do you believe in destiny? Or do you believe in fate, or free will?
I believe in free will.
Okay. Because that's counter to what you're describing.
Yeah, I know, but like I also believe like you have to. I'm in tune with that, so I'm freely acting in that way, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I guess I also believe in fate too, because like I've been faced with tons of challenges in my life, like lots and lots of failures. Like that's just it. But like I'm still here, man. Like I'm gonna fail on a bigger scale. I'm gonna keep failing, but like still here. I'm still pushing forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Like that's not gonna define me. That's the point. If Holmes Healthy Vending ceases to exist on a negative note, if I don't sell it the way I want to, or if I don't grow it to whatever I want it to be, I can't let that define me. And I can't let it impact me that way, because that just opened up a hole for something else in my life to not fill. And maybe it's something simple.
It's a good philosophy to have, for sure.
It makes me feel good about myself.
Yeah. I mean, I think about it, when I think about that in business, I think, you really want to take your eggs out of one basket. You want to diversify as much as possible. That's
the plan now, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to, I don't plan on failing.
No, for sure. No one does.
But it helps me with that anxiety every day when I'm like, do I even want to do this anymore?
Yeah.
We have those thoughts again as entrepreneurs. Do I even want to do this anymore?
I saw a vending machine business for sale in southern New Brunswick.
Yeah.
And they wanted $500,000 for it.
Mm-hmm.
And are you familiar with these folks?
I'm probably am, yeah. Sounds familiar.
They said that in the ad they had machines from Sussex to St. Stephen, and they do X amount of business per year, and they actually have employees and vans and all this.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you ever thought about buying up some of the other piece of pies from the guys that have? Because I think about vending. Anyone running a vending machine business probably old.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting that you go out and buy a $500,000 vending machine business, but I'm sure there's guys out there, girls out there that have gumball machines, like pick your vending machines. that are taking up space where you can't get into right now.
That's right.
And it's just a matter of finding out how to finance the purchase and go out and say, hey, listen, do you enjoy running this business? Are you like brink of retirement? You ever think about that?
Yeah, I have actually. I think the one you're referring to specifically, I've actually talked with them quite a bit over the last couple months. Kind of, if it's the one I'm thinking of, they reached out and said, look, I'm selling or I'm buying. Let's just at least get to know each other and kind of work it out and see what happens. And right now, we're just kind of nothing's happening. I'm not moving anything. I'm happy. I'm not, again, kind of back to like that whole Patterson thing. I didn't, like when I said I felt like I was done. I don't feel like I'm done with vending machines.
No.
I have more to learn, and I'm not even actually looking to expand. Like someone reached out to me last week and they're like, hey, we need a machine. It was a decent opportunity, like as far as like checking all the check boxes. They had it all. I chose not to go into it. I don't want to necessarily grow that way right now. What I'm actually focused on is like systemizing the business and running it as operationally smooth as possible. And there's a lot that's kind of come into that. And from there, once I kind of got that at a better place, then I can see about, buying up pieces or selling it at a more, an actual well-oiled machine or whatever. So, but yeah, I have definitely entertained those. There's only a couple big players in St. John in that industry, which is...
It's New Brunswick.
Yeah, that's it. So, anyway. Yeah.
It's interesting. Let's see. I was going to ask you a couple other things here.
Do it. Let me run to the washroom.
Yeah, do it.
Because I'd love to
pause this.
Yep.
So yeah, something that I wanted to ask you about is speaking of diversification. Mm-hmm. We were talking about people who are future oriented in a positive way, and investing and all that. Do you invest?
No. No, I have, I got like RSPs. And I invested in a local company called NextGen.
Heard of them.
Yeah. So I invest in them because again, like local, film that whole thing, I can like somewhat be involved. I can sit at a table, talk to them, but I have not gone as far as actually investing. I'm just, again, it's not something I'm super interested at this point. I'm probably going to be at some point, but right now I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah, I won't go down that road then, because I was going to talk about like ETFs. I don't know if you know anything about those. Yeah, it's a conversation for another day. It's interesting.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely.
But then the other thing I was going to ask is, so walk me through. Did you end up going to UNB as well?
No.
Okay, so you went to the community college?
Yes.
Walk me through your educational experience at the community college.
So, I think I would have been 20? Yeah, 20 years old. Mm-hmm. So I've been removed, or had graduated from Simons at that point for 3 years. And had no idea what I was going to do. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I guess to this day, I probably still don't, but I enjoy what I'm doing now, so it's good. But anyway, didn't know what I wanted to do, but I remember having a conversation with someone, and they were saying they're taking a business course, and I was like, that's kind of cool. Like, I like business. Let's check this out, right? So I started the research, right? I talked to, like CompU College and NBCC and UMBSJ. I'm like, what am I going to do here? And like, NBCC was like that nice middle of the road type option for me. It is like that middle of the road option because it wasn't quite 4 years, and from what I was reading, it was, it was a good equivalent education to what a 4-year would have been. Yeah. At university. Anyway, so I said, let's do this. And I think the money was the same or something like that. Anyway, so let's do this. And I absolutely loved the course. So 2 years, first year kind of generalized, second year specific to one specific course or whatever. So I obviously took marketing. Yeah. And I loved it, and highly recommend it. And I remember at the end of the first year, you can take either marketing, accounting, or investment management. Yep. You could take one of those courses to kind of intro you to whatever course whatever you focus on in the second year. and I'd taken investment management, and it was funny because I did really well on that course.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it, and it was good, but I couldn't help wondering what the hell was going on in the marketing class. I wanted to know what they were learning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So at the end of it, I choose obviously to go to the marketing course, and that was great. And I loved it, obviously, because I'm still kind of practicing that. Not everyone from my graduating class is still practicing marketing. Some have moved on to different professions or whatever.
Yeah.
But like I really stuck to it. And for me, it was like, I'd be studying for tests, like reading through the textbooks, and I'd be getting lost in chapters because I just fire through the material and just keep going on to the next one, right?
Yeah, and you're really like, you're taking something, you're on the right path.
Mm.
You're on the right educational path when what you're reading, you get kind of swept away in the story, and you're actually enjoying the content. Like, you know that you're sitting in the right classroom when you get that textbook.
That's right.
So, go on.
Yeah, so really own that, man. Like, I would different marketing courses. Consumer behavior, my favorite course. So I really enjoy like understanding how people make purchasing decisions. Like,
yeah,
but and I
so what is it? Richard Thaler?
Yeah.
Nudge. Have you heard of that book?
I haven't.
So he talks about like. Anyway, we'll get into that. Remind me to touch back on that.
Okay,
That's a cool thing. Okay, go on.
Love that stuff. Right? Yeah. Like how are we influenced, and cognitive dissonance we talked about. Like it's just all this stuff, right? So anyway, geeked out on that. There was a small business component where you had to actually drop a small business plan, and that was super beneficial as well, obviously, and just some amazing skills. Met a lot of good people there, and like as I kind of got into the work, so I graduated and I did really well and really proud of myself, and kind of kept going and like continuously learned. Like my knowledge of marketing has definitely obviously improved since then.
Yeah. But
leaving college and entering the workforce, I was at a really good starting point. Like I got to like into the workforce and like, well, I know shit that like I thought everyone knew. Like I thought this was like common knowledge. But
but the thing is the theoretical is so fresh in you.
Yeah.
That when you bring it up in a meeting at Xerox,
exactly,
they're like, "Oh, right."
Yeah. I remember
or maybe they didn't know at all because they've been so complacent and in their positions for 20 years. It's just like,
I remember one of the first meetings I had at Xerox. It was like a workshop or something that they were doing, and they were talking about communication.
Yeah.
And at the time, I wasn't even a full-time employee. I was like a contractor or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was literally fighting for a position, fighting for my first job. Wasn't sure what I was going to do next. Anyway, in this meeting, in this workshop, they're talking about communication and like how to craft an email.
Yeah. And
what's the most persuasive way to do it. And like, I had just gone through a whole course on this. And I'm like floored that people didn't, like, it wasn't common knowledge again, right? I don't think ill or badly to people. It was just like, it was interesting. So I'm firing off answers thinking like, oh, look at me being the hot shot, like, intern. Like, I'm going to, this is kind of cool or whatever. And I'm like, here's how you should do this. And if you're going to be persuasive, like, put in bullet points and like just different stuff, right? So I was like, eye opener. And then it was funny too, because after that workshop, I sent an email to the lady. She worked internally. I sent an email to her and thanked her for it. Thank you for the workshop. Like, I learned a lot. And she forwarded that to my then manager and like
nice.
The head of the building. She's like, don't know who this guy is, but like he raised his hand and like he thanked me.
He's on the ball.
No one does that.
Right.
Let's keep our eyes on him. And then I was able to get like 3 promotions in the next 2 years.
Well, I'll tell you right now. So I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you talk about the program at the community college, and I took that program.
That's right.
I didn't declare an option towards the end.
I remember that, yeah.
I actually just did the general route, which I don't think you can do anymore.
I don't think so.
I think they kind of force you into one of those 3.
Right.
And then I went on and finished a degree at UNB.
Right.
For a business degree, or a Bachelor of Applied Management or whatever.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is when I was at the community college, there was nothing that I hated more than the communications class.
Tough one.
Like,
No.
it was the driest, shittiest class that I've ever had to take.
We don't need to talk about who taught it, but
Yeah.
we can
We
leave
know,
that out.
we know who taught that.
So anyway, yeah.
But I swear that once I got out into the professional world, that there was there wasn't anything that helped me more than that communications course.
I know.
Like, it's night and day, and like email etiquette, how to talk to people, what to say in order to get what you want. Literally just how to communicate.
I know, man.
That was probably one of my biggest takeaways, and to be able to get comfortable in front of a group of people to be able to convey any message, which is a part of it, right?
Oh, huge. I used to be, first of all, that course, you're right. Like, it was like, why am I taking this? Makes no sense.
Yeah.
But also, the one that made the most impact from multiple ways. Actually, funny thing, there's actually a posting for that job right now.
For
that communications at NBC. So
oh, really? As a prof?
My wife and I looked at it, like,
I would never teach that.
If this was like, I know. This is like another world, like we both didn't love our jobs, like probably be sweet. But
yeah.
Anyway,
they make like 85, I think.
I think so.
It's
yeah.
not bad.
There was the range was on the post. Yeah. Something like that. So I was like, man, that class, that course, I used to be like, and I still may be terrible at public speaking, right? Just the worst. Like, even something like this would be tough for me.
Okay.
Typically, or then. So bad that, like, in high school, I almost failed. Like, I almost didn't graduate because I kept skipping out on doing presentations. And they're like, man, you can't keep doing it. Like, you gotta do the presentation. I'm like, I'm not doing it, man. I don't want to do it. Because I'd be up there mumbling, talking too fast, dry mouth. Just
in your own head.
Hating it.
Yeah.
Hating it.
Yeah.
So, but that class, it has a component that teaches you how to, like, public speak. And you start from, like, small increments, like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, like whatever it went up to. And you're supposed to get better. And, like, that made the biggest impact on me. And now public speaking is, like, I love it, first of all.
Yeah.
And it's a huge component to my job. And yeah.
Have you ever done Toastmasters?
I started Toastmasters like 6 months ago.
Oh.
I'm not part of it now, but I went to a couple classes.
Okay.
And I was like really into it, but my wife was pregnant and like I was doing all this.
You doing a million other things.
And I was like, I knew a guy pretty good that invited me and I said, look, like something that makes sense for me, something I can't do now, but like, let's like keep bringing it up to me. So something I'll probably do eventually.
I lived in Halifax for a year and, I did Toastmasters pretty much start to end while I was there in Halifax.
Did you?
And I loved it, man.
Yeah.
I thought that I was okay at public speaking.
Yeah.
It sharpens you up.
I believe, man, their system is like very good.
And they teach you how to run a meeting properly.
Yeah.
But the big thing for me was the spontaneity at the beginning.
Yep.
They slide you a piece of paper that has a random topic on it, and they're like, talk for 2 minutes.
Figure it out.
Talk for 2 minutes. Talking for 2 minutes doesn't seem like that hard of a thing.
No.
But when you're on the spot and there's 30 or 35 people that are in the audience and they're all staring at you and there's crickets, it's like, but once you get used to doing that, you realize that it's not so much about the content. No. It's about being agreeable and letting things flow.
That's it. And breathing.
And breathing. Yeah. But having an intro, a body, and a conclusion.
Yeah.
And being able to, it doesn't matter how much you know about anything.
No.
Just say something. You can make things up.
That's right.
But, it's an exercise to get you to a point where you feel comfortable and confident and really truly understanding that, everything needs an intro, body, conclusion kind of thing. I asked you to remind me of something, and it was
Richard Thaler.
Right. So he comes out with this book, Nudge.
Okay.
And he talks about, I've only read, I think, a chapter out of it so far. I'm reading it right now. But he talks about all of these different things that influence your decision making. Mm-hmm. And he won a Nobel Prize. He's in economics for this book, or this research that he did for the book. And, he talks about all these different ways that we're influenced kind of unconsciously. And one of them that really, I went back and read it over again, and I've read some of his research around it, but it's opt-in versus opt-out. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So there is an unprecedented amount of organ donors, or successful organ donations in countries that have an opt-out clause for organ donation. So everyone is automatically opted in. If you take, if you take offense to that, if you're against it for your own personal reasons, you call them up, you send them an email, you mail a letter, whatever. You opt out, right? The thing is people will just go with the status quo, and it's like your RSP savings that you were talking about. Right. The reason that you got into your RSP savings wasn't because you consciously went out and made that decision. Someone came to you and said, hey, we got and I'm just guessing here, we got a matching program at work. And, everyone does this. And you just say, yeah, okay, no problem. Yeah, I'll do that. And then you have savings now because of that. Had you not done that, or had no one really set that up that way, where it was more of an opt-out than it was an opt-in, then you might be less apt to have any savings at this point, because maybe you're the type of person that isn't concerned about saving their money, right? So when I think about opt-in versus opt-out, I think about those awful. I'm trying to tone down my language here. The flyers that they leave at the foot of your driveway. And I'm not talking about just regular old junk mail that the Canada Post brings you and sticks in your mailbox. Right. I'm talking about the Brunswick News, and there's a name for them, whatever they are. Yeah. And they come in a plastic bag.
Is it a blue plastic?
No. The blue. Yeah. They come in a blue plastic bag.
Yeah. Man.
So this hashtag that's been out where everyone's cleaning up.
Yeah.
I'm going uptown.
Yeah.
This spring.
Yeah.
And I am going to collect as many of those flyers as I can.
Good.
I'm going to put them in a big cardboard box, and I'm going to drive them over to the Telegraph Journal or whoever, Brunswick News, and I'm going to dump them at their doorstep.
Thank you.
No one wants your flyers.
I'm so done with those.
I hate them.
I know.
They're polluting this city.
It's terrible.
So, with that, I think that, and I've talked to I've talked to a counselor about it that's on city council, and I said, if instead of an opt-out, because an opt-out policy increases compliance.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. Which is great for organ donation.
Sure.
But when it comes to trash on our streets, we should almost change that so that there is a law in place that requires people to opt in if they want it.
That's right. Yep.
You change that, and the game changes.
Big time. Yeah, it does.
So I said I was going to wait until I actually bought a property in St. John to pursue this, and I just closed on one last Wednesday. So it's Sunday right now.
Awesome. Yeah.
So now that that's closed, I'm going to pursue this to no end.
Good.
Or to an end until it's changed.
Right.
So anyway, I just wanted to say that and get it off my chest.
Well, thank you for sharing, because I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know, if you've had a snowblower try and go through one of those.
Well, that was in the newspaper. It was in the newspaper about everyone complaining about the fact that they're, the shred in these newspapers, there's confetti all over the lawns now come spring, right?
Yeah. Oh, man. It's just not fun.
It's a pain in the ass.
You gotta, anyway, I go on for that for a long time.
And then to cancel them, have you ever tried to cancel it?
I thought I did, and they're still on my my driveway. I thought I did.
So
I'm not trying again.
It's to a point of harassment. I say, but you got to call them 3 or 4 times. And there's a name on it. I think it starts with a G, but there's a name. Yeah, it's at the top of it. It's at the header.
Yeah.
And a buddy of mine called them to cancel several times. And one time he called and he's like, yeah, I want to cancel the whatever the name is.
Right.
And the girl's like, I've never heard of that publication. And the guy's like, nope, you drop it off every single week at my doorstep.
Uh-huh.
And the girl's like, "Oh, are you talking about the flyers?"
Yeah.
It's like, they know they're just harassing people with flyers.
Oh, yeah.
There's no, there's no value to those things beyond just whatever the revenue is that Brunswick News is making on its distribution, right?
Right.
So why are we allowing them to harass people? And it's incredibly hard to opt out. Like, so I got an apartment building uptown, and it's a 3-unit, and I called them. And they were dropping 3 flyers at the doorstep. And this is while I was living there, right? And so I said, yeah, like, no more flyers, thanks. And the girl's like, what unit do you live in? I was like, I own the building. And she said, oh, well, you can't cancel it for other tenants. I was like, listen, if I see that guy coming down the street and he's got his window open and I'm out there at 5 a.m. when he's dropping them off, man, I'm going to grab one that's icy, that's been sitting on the curb all winter, and I'm going to whip it right back into his window.
Man, you've seen the guy?
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen the guy.
Oh, they're super sneaky.
Man, there's like the Batman of like distribution for flyers in New Brunswick. And I'm like, where's he at? Where's he coming from? And he just shows up. I need to find this guy and have a conversation with him.
He's almost as sneaky as the parking meter dudes.
They
go out at 12:30 at night, like as soon as it's supposed to flip over to the other side of the road, and they're out giving tickets. And it's like, in my opinion, that's encouraging people to drink and drive.
Yes, it is.
Like, we want to, promote business uptown. Why not? Every Friday and Saturday morning, why don't we just allow people to park up until 12 p.m.? Just give them a little leeway to come and get their cars, be a little hungover, whatever it is. Because if not, really, if someone sits there and drinks 5 pints of beer, and they're like, kind of like, I probably shouldn't drive, I'd definitely blow over, but I'm not drunk to the point where I'm going to swerve and crash immediately, that person should not drive.
That's right. Agreed.
Like, end stop. So, by making it so that they have to figure out where to park their car, or, they're faced with, I think it's $25 now for a ticket. I don't know. Yeah. But those people are going to be more likely to drink and drive.
Absolutely, man.
And why are we switching sides in July?
I know. Yeah, I know.
There's not a flake of snow.
I know.
Right?
I know.
So.
And it always, so like, that always happens on, so every time there's this changeover, it wouldn't necessarily always be on like a weekend night where there's like increased drinking. However, every year the changeover is always on New Year's Eve.
Yes.
Every year. And I remember having that problem when I lived uptown. I was like, I remember one time I actually rolled up to a cop was sitting there. I'm like, am I expected to change over tonight? He's like, you're going to have to change over.
I'm drunk.
Oh, it's great because I started drinking at noon.
Yeah.
I'm 20.
Yeah.
Like, you understand.
Yeah, you're 20 years old.
Yeah, like, okay, I'll see you in a bit. Like,
yeah, so, I mean, like, I think there's really simple things like that that are very quick and easy solves. I think it's likely, the second one, which is the ticketing and they're out there at 1 a.m. Like, I've looked at the ticket and it says this was done at 1:15 a.m. Like, you're just blatantly out there to make money for the city, which, bless you, because the city needs money.
That's right.
But figure out a better way to do it. Like, you're just preying on people at that point, right? And then the Brunswick News, I don't know how the city's benefiting from that in any way. It's trashing up the streets.
That's right. It is.
Right? I think that the rule there needs to be a law passed, a municipal law that says that if people want those damn flyers, they need to be opting in for them.
Yeah, and it kind of ties back into like digital stuff. It's like, yeah, like flyers may have been like needed and more like used like 20 years ago when that was a means of communication that like, oh no, we have to have this flyer distribution or else we can't get certain information out, that type of thing. But, the online world is changing and information is passing that way where the flyers aren't relevant. So like whatever bylaw there is or isn't, it's not relevant anymore.
Well, like it's gotten so bad with junk mail in my email inbox that they pass a law.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the
GRPD.
Yeah, you would know about that. But okay, so why doesn't that law exist for physical junk mail? Right?
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I can't think the last time where people, like, I have, like, visitors, they'll come over and they're like, oh, I saw they'll bring it in the house for me. I'm like, no, this doesn't come in the house. It goes right to the garbage in the garage.
Yeah.
So I can't think of the last time that I've actually brought it up my stairs and then my kitchen, opened it up and been like,
yeah, like, I wonder what sales Pizza Hut has on. Like, I don't give a shit.
But there may be, like, again, I'm 29, so, like, that's me, right? And then there's us that don't want to see that, right? Yeah. But, like, my grandparent, for example, they may want to sit back and flip.
My dad's got a wood stove. He uses it to start his fire.
So opt in.
Yeah, opt in.
Opt in.
Yeah. 100%. So that was 2 hours.
Is it usually 2 hours?
2 hours.
That's some content, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Any shout outs? Anything you want to?
Shout outs to my wife and kids. They're cool.
Deadly times.
They put up with me. Shout out to ICS Creative Agency for also putting up with me.
Boom.
Love them, and man, great people. Right.
Sweet.
Shout outs to all those boards I already mentioned that I'm on. Yeah, that's it, man. Just shouting out to my loved ones.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone's still listening, thanks for checking in. And the next one we have, let's see here. I'm going to be away for a little bit. Harrison Teed.
Oh.
You know
Harry's
him?
coming, yes.
Yeah.
Harry.
So it's going to be H squared.
My man.
So,
right.
Yeah, we're booking into April right now. So Harrison Teed's going to come on, and we're going to chat about some interesting stuff.
Yeah, he's an interesting dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for coming up, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.